Just of note, I want to thank Ms. Barlow for leaving Wyoming and leaving the snow there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the full committee. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm afraid I may have brought some snow with me last weekend. I haven't been here a week, so if it snows this weekend too, it's surely me. But that doesn't mean I'm going anywhere. So thank you so much for having me. And before I get started with just some very brief remarks, I would like to introduce a couple of folks from the Virginia Department of Education, Assistant Superintendent Elizabeth Schultz, as well as Chief of Staff Dickie Shaner. Thank you. Well, I am excited to work with all of you to make Virginia the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And I share Governor Youngkin's priorities for education. Together, we will restore excellence in education by ensuring that students have access to more opportunities to succeed, and that we are supporting schools as they provide services and instruction that make a difference for every student individually and all students across the Commonwealth of Virginia. We'll keep schools open 5 days a week for all students to ensure that schools are a safe place to thrive and to learn. We will remove divisive ideology and politics from the classroom, and not one of us disagrees that students need access to a comprehensive education about the history of our world, our country, and the Commonwealth. The education must include our triumphs, our trials, our bloodshed, along with our victories, our progress, and our achievements. But it cannot be delivered in a way that tells students what to think. The teacher's job is to teach students how to think. Governor Youngkin has pledged to add 20 charter schools to the Commonwealth. Schools are the centerpieces of our families and the centerpieces of our communities. Parents and families, and every family, should have the opportunity to choose the school that their child attends. And finally, Governor Youngkin wants to see crumbling schools improved or rebuilt, and wants to invest in quality teachers with higher salaries and with a focus on special education. I am so enthusiastic about Governor Youngkin's agenda, and I'm anxious to begin working with him, with Secretary Gadara, with each of you, with school divisions, and with parents from across the Commonwealth. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would stand for any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. Delegate Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome. I would like to know more about the divisive policies that you are referring to, if you can just give us more information about it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Delegate Guzman, right? Okay, thank you. Delegate Guzman, on January 15th, Governor Youngkin signed Executive Order Number 1 that lays out exactly the action related to the divisive ideology and politics in the classroom, and the step-by-step process that we will go through at the state level to ensure that that is removed, and we will continue to support teachers and school divisions as they implement Executive Order Number 1.
Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Quickly, Delegate.
Yes, while I was reading the executive order, there was reference about critical race theory. So my follow-up question is that if you are aware if we teach that in the classrooms. I mean, I've raised 4 children in the public schools here in Virginia. My oldest is 31, my youngest is 12. They're proud products of public education. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen that happening. So are you aware that we teach critical race theory here in the Commonwealth?
Mr. Chairman and Delegate Guzman, I will work in the coming days, and I look forward to digging much deeper on this issue, and I'll work with the governor's office, with each of you, as well as the state board, to ensure that our school divisions have guidance.
Thank you. There are 2 other questions. We're going to obviously have plenty of time to debate these issues in bill form, but we have Delegate Van Valkenburg and Delegate Freitas. I would like to give them a quick opportunity as well for a comment. Delegate Van Valkenburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, congratulations on your appointment, Superintendent. My question, I'm going to be a broken record a little bit, I think, is about math, because we're going to have political back and forth That's just the nature of a democracy. It's the nature of a legislature, right? But I do think where we agree is we want kids in school 5 days a week, and I do think we want high standards for our kids, and as I've said before as well, right? And that's why I found it really disappointing that Executive Order 1, this 8th item, had that Math Pathways Initiative. Now, I know that Math Pathways Initiative got caught up in a whole firestorm in March around one meeting, which was taken and it was run with, and it went, all of a sudden it was a national right-wing story about how, Democrats didn't want advanced math, and somehow math became CRT. I just thought math was math. And it was a whole campaign thing, and I get that, but the Math Pathways Initiative is objectively trying to get more kids into advanced math, and trying to have more pathways that are more responsive to our economy, more responsive to where jobs are, and more responsive to kids, right, and where kids are, and trying to get more people into AP statistics as an example, trying to get more people into math that aligns with careers as an example. And so I was really, really disappointed that was discarded. Politics is politics, but policy is policy. And so I would like that program to come back. We can have our CRT fight, whatever. I'm going to put that to the side. I would like to see you all bring that back, because I think if we want kids to excel, and I believe that you do and I do, I think that math initiative was on the right track for doing that. And so if, we're going to have our politics track, we're going to have our policy track where we can agree. And I think, unfortunately, that program got caught up in politics and got caught up in, quite honestly, clickbait. And so I just I guess I wonder where we stand on that, because I think getting rid of advanced math tracks is bad.
Mr. Chairman? And Delegate Van Valkenburg, thank you for that. And when you asked a similar question on Monday, I believe it was, to Secretary Gadara, I made notes. I am as quickly and carefully and thoughtfully coming up to speed on all of the issues that are in Executive Order 1, as well as within the Department of Education and out among the Commonwealth of Virginia. That said, and to the extent possible, I look forward to ensuring that all programs provide opportunities for students to excel in school. And look forward to visiting with you more about that, Delegate.
And our last comment question, Delegate Freitas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Superintendent. It's interesting that we have these discussions on the Education Committee, because obviously we should be teaching critical thinking skills when it comes to our schools. And I find it fascinating sometimes that we hear this argument that because I can't go to my child's syllabus and point to a section that says CRT 101, that therefore CRT has no influence in the classroom whatsoever. Because I'm willing to bet that if we came up with some sort of training or teacher requirement in order to get or renew their license, which was overwhelmingly taught by institutions, organizations, and people that openly advocate for CRT, I'm willing to bet, openly advocated, well, let me put it this way. If we required all of our teachers now to go through ethics training taught by the Catholic Church, and then we went back to parents and we said, well, there's no Catholic Church 101 in your kids' history lessons, so clearly this isn't having any influence in your classroom, I'm willing to bet that a number of people who are good critical thinkers would come forward and say, Nick, that's probably not a complete picture of what's going on. And that's why I applaud many of the decisions that Governor Youngkin has made with respect to taking certain concepts out of the requirement for the classroom, teacher requirements, et cetera. What I don't want is to get in a debate where we replace one set of ideologies with another set of ideologies. I think a lot of people, and especially parents, are really tired of the idea that this should not be about Democrats running education or Republicans running education. It should be about them as the customer, as the consumer, having more control over what that looks like, and then empowering the very people that are going to provide it. So what I'd like to hear is some assurance that that is the direction that we're trying to go. Again, it's not an idea of partisan control over the ideological makeup of teacher training or what goes on in the classroom, but rather empowering the people that are actually the customers and consumers of the education. If you could elaborate on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Delegate Freitas. Is that right? Okay. Thank you for that illustration and comparison. I appreciate that. And I think you're right on. Governor Youngkin all along has said, we want to ensure that students know how to think, not what to think. That means that we are teaching critical thinking. That means we're putting materials in front of students that encourage students to think critically and think clearly throughout their educational career.
Ms. Barlow, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and cut off now. When I said we were going to cut off the questions, that was everyone on there at that time, so I appreciate your time. And obviously, all of us will have a chance to meet with you individually, and I think we're going to see some legislation anyway on a number of these issues, so thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Davis. Thank you, members of the committee.
At this time, we have one last presentation. It's Dr. Keith Perrigan. He's the president of the Coalition